Epic Games just released Unreal Engine version 5.6 preview, and there are some fun audio features that we need to jump in and check out. Now, before we do, I have to mention this is 5.6 preview, and for those of you who may be new to Unreal Engine, basically what this means is it's an open public testing build. So you're probably not going to be using preview to create games. It's more so for you to jump in, explore, and submit your feedback. So that means anything that we cover today is subject to change when 5.6.0 releases, and anything that we cover that requires a tutorial, I will be waiting until that official release comes out, just so I don't give you guys any false information. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the engine and check out these new audio features. So with the engine open, one of the first things that you're probably going to notice is that there has been another UI change. And while this isn't specific to audio, one of the things that I do recommend is anytime there's a UI update, just kind of take a moment and re-familiarize yourself with where buttons are, menus, options, and things like that. This is probably the best way to just kind of make sure that you're back up to speed in your workflow. Another thing that I like to do during these quote-unquote experimental or research phases is I always come up to Edit and Plugins, and under Audio, I tend to just kind of go nuts and start turning things on. You're probably not going to have all of these on in an actual project, but for my research and development phase, this is something that I like to do. Now, for the sake of this video, there are a few plugins that we're going to be touching on. And the first one is our Audio Insights. Now, Audio Insights as a whole is not new to 5.6, but there has been a small update there, so we'll be checking that out. You'll see that there is a new MetaSounds experimental plugin. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we have the Subtitles and Captions plugin, which is new, and we'll be diving into that. And I also have the Waveform editor enabled. And just like with the Audio Insights, the Waveform editor isn't new itself to 5.6, but there has been some updates there as well. So we're going to go ahead and close out of our plugins window and get started. Now, if you're watching this video, there's probably a pretty good chance that you spend a lot of time in MetaSounds. So we're going to go ahead and create a new MetaSound and take a look at what is new. Now, with our MetaSound open, one of the first things that you may notice is it looks like there's been an update to our visualizers. And if we come up here to these three dots, you can see that we can now actually just turn these on and off. So if you just need the meter, you can just have that one available. And if you need all of these, you can certainly turn them on. And we can also now undock these. So now we can have these anywhere we'd like. So if you're running multiple monitors, you can have a meter off to the side. That way it's not impeding on your graph. And what we can do is we can just grab this and move it back over and put it back where we need it to go. So those are completely dockable and undockable. The next update that I want to point out, we're going to find over here under Voice Management. And this is going to be under our virtualization mode. Now, by default, it is on restart. And before this update, we had disabled play when silent and restart, but you'll see we actually now have a new option called Seek Restart. And I'm really excited for this because this is a problem in bigger games. So let's say, for example, you have ambiances in a bunch of different areas, and you're probably going to have those ambiances set to play when silent, so that as you leave and then come back to that area, that ambience will pick back up. The problem in doing so is that anything that is set to play when silent, even though you leave that attenuation radius, that asset is still taking up a voice. And in larger scale games where you really have to optimize and prioritize your audio files, this new seek restart is going to come in handy. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to virtualize the MetaSound and keep it in memory, but it's not going to be taking up a voice once you leave that attenuation radius. So you can leave, you can travel to the other side of the map, and when you come back to this area, that ambience is going to attempt to pick back up at the same play time as when it stopped. But while you're off on the other side of the map, it frees up that voice so that you can play additional sounds in whatever area the player is in. Now, when it comes to new nodes inside MetaSounds, there are a few, but nothing that I'm going to spend too much time on. But if we click on functions and we scroll down, one of them is a configurable node. Now, truth be told, I haven't quite figured this one out yet, and it may be still in production. So if we mouse over this, it says a node which shows you how to make a configurable node. And over on the left in the details, we do have some options, and I do think this is really neat. So we can change the number of inputs and outputs on the fly. Now, all of these inputs and outputs by default are triggers. And maybe there's more to this on the back end in the C++ code. I'm not very fluent in C++, so I haven't really dove into that. But what I'm hoping, and just me personally, is this is going to expand to other things. So for example, like we have a stereo mixer 5, which has 5 stereo input channels. That caps out at 8. Maybe in the future, we'll be able to dynamically add and remove channels. You know, as we add more wave players, maybe we need to add more inputs on our mixer. So instead of completely deleting and disconnecting that mixer, we can just simply add or remove channels from that specific node as needed. Is that what this is going to be? I don't know. Those are just my hopes. Another new node that we have here, or set of nodes, is our CAT nodes. And CAT stands for Channel Agnostic Type. And in a typical game development session, this probably isn't going to be something that you're going to get too in depth with or even use at all, depending on the project. But because Unreal Engine is now being used for things like film and television production and even live experiences, this is something that you may find useful for that. And basically what channel agnostic type is it allows for flexibility to upscale or downscale for various types of speaker arrays. So say that you have a stereo file and you want to send that out to a 7.1 surround sound, the CAT nodes is how you would do that. Now, obviously, there is far more to these nodes than just that very vague explanation, but this is a preview and we're just kind of doing an overview of the features. So if the CAT nodes are something that you would like to see me specifically break down, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to do so. But other than that, I haven't really found any new nodes to really talk about. I was hoping that we'd get some more options under our reverbs, but for now, the plate reverb is still all we have. Now let's move into our audio insights. Like I said, audio insights isn't new to 5.6 itself. However, there are a few updates here. So I'm going to go ahead and undock this from the sidebar so I can make it full screen. And I'm just going to touch on this real quick. Typically, we had our sources, our virtual loops, submixes, and audio buses. And you'll see now that we have a few more tabs, our modulation matrix, control buses, and sounds. And basically all this is it's kind of just giving you a more granular look at how your audio is performing inside your project. And to continue talking about things that aren't necessarily new to 5.6 but have been updated in 5.6, let's talk about the Waveform editor. Now, previously, if we had an audio file, and we'll go to our trusty starter music, if I wanted to edit this waveform, first you do need the Waveform editor plugin enabled, but if I wanted to edit this specific asset, then I could right click on it and I would see an option for Waveform editor. And you'll notice that I don't have that anymore. Instead, if I just double click on this, it's automatically going to open up in the Waveform editor. But you'll see over here on the left, we do still have all of the details that we would typically have if we were to previously just double click on a raw audio asset. But we do still have our tab up here for processing. Under processing, if we go ahead and add something here, you'll see that we still have the normalize and trim fade, but you'll see that we also have a wave transformation markers. And what this is it allows you to create cue points for an audio asset instead where previously you would have to create cue points inside of your DAW and then import it. Brian Fuller has an amazing video on how to do this in previous versions, but in 5.6 it brings it all in-house and allows you to create cue points directly in the engine. Another thing that I want to point out is for those of you who have used this for things like trimming and fading, you may have noticed some stuttering when playing with the start time or the end time. It does seem that there is now a performance update that allows this to work a lot more smoothly, for lack of a better term. So really great to see. Maybe that means that a lot of you will start using the Waveform editor a little bit more. Personally, I think it's a great tool for maybe Unreal Engine users who don't necessarily have a good workflow inside of a DAW. This allows them to kind of edit the audio right here inside Unreal Engine. Now, for the last two things that we're going to talk about in this video, we do need to create a level sequence. And I'm not even going to bother naming it. That way I can just show you. But you'll see that we have our level sequencer down here. And the first thing that is new in 5.6 is the ability to scrub audio as you're scrubbing through your timeline. So we're just going to go ahead and add an audio track. And it will pop up and give you a warning saying that your clock source should be audio if you're using audio. So it automatically takes care of that. And I'm going to go ahead and expand this so that we have a little room to play with. And I'm going to go ahead and add an audio file. And we'll add our starter music here. And basically what this does is it allows you to audition audio as you scrub through here. And so as I move the playhead, you'll hear that it kind of works based off a wavetable. And so it uses each sample and you hear it and you're auditioning it, and that's just a lot of techno mumbo jumbo for you can now hear the audio as you move the playhead. Now, something that I want to point out, if you don't hear this, you can come up here to your settings, and if your level editor volume is all the way down, you don't hear this at all. So, if you need to audition or scrub through audio, you will need to make sure that your level editor volume is turned up. And now the last thing that we're going to take a look at is subtitles. Now, subtitles is not new to Unreal Engine. However, in 5.6, we now have a standalone subtitle system. So I'm going to go into our content browser and I'm going to scroll all the way down. It's not under audio. It does have its own category here called subtitles. And you can name it whatever you want. But if we open this up, you'll see a lot of fields that you're probably familiar with if you've ever done anything with subtitles. So real quick, this is a test, and we'll set our duration for 25 seconds. You can adjust the start offset. Priority is just the same as every other field that has priority. Basically, it's telling the engine which assets to prioritize over others if there is an instance where both assets need to be called at the same time. There is a section here for ESRB, which is in North America anyway, is the rating system for video games. I'm not entirely sure what this field is for. I don't know if it's going to allow you to basically censor different types of things like the mature tick box did in the old subtitles. Maybe this is going to give you more granular control. I haven't really played around with this field too much, so I'm not certain, but hopefully time will tell and kind of give a better explanation of what this field is. And the last field is our subtitle type. So we can have subtitles, closed caption, and audio descriptions. And I'll dive into this just a little bit in this video. It's something that we may go more in depth in a more dedicated standalone video. But for right now, I'm going to keep this as subtitles, and I have my text. Now, if you are familiar with creating subtitles inside Unreal Engine, one of the things that you're probably going to notice is that we don't have a start time. And that's because this is a data asset. We're actually going to be able to put this wherever we want, whenever we want. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick. So I have my text and I have my duration. Everything else I'm leaving as default. And so back here in our sequencer, let's say at 5 seconds is when I want this subtitle to appear. And I'm going to turn this back down so we don't have the scrubbing. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new track. And now we have a subtitles track. And you'll see this is the subtitles asset that I created. I created it for 25 seconds. And if I set our level sequencer to autoplay, I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way, and I hit play. You hear our music, and 5 seconds in, you'll see down at the bottom of the screen, this is a test. So that is our subtitle being read from our level sequencer, and it's automatically creating that within the viewport for the player. And so what this is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to use MetaSounds inside your level sequencer, which MetaSounds do not support subtitles. So this is a way to essentially have subtitles with MetaSounds. But something that we can also do is if we come in here to our content browser, we'll change this from subtitle to audio description. resave it, and hit play again. Now, instead of at the bottom, you're going to see that this pops up in the middle of the screen. I do want to point out though that this is using just Unreal Engine's base subtitle configuration. So if you need to change where it is on the screen, the color, and things like that, what you can do is you can come up here to Editor and your project settings, and we can type in subtitle. So right now the subtitle widget to use is set to none by default. Unreal Engine does have a default subtitle widget, but you're also more than welcome to create your own widgets for displaying that text on the screen. Again, I'm not going to go in depth into that in this video, but if that is something that you'd like to see me do, please let me know in the comments below. All right guys, so that's going to wrap things up for this video. Like I said, everything in this video is subject to change because this is a preview release. But if you like what you saw and you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you never miss out on any future content. And if you'd like to be a part of the Sound Effects Guy Discord server, you will find a link in the description below. Until next time.